Aloha Aina. Aloha Aina. "5:06 p.m. at 56% was the code I got when I picked up my phone to film this video, which is 1111 with a 0. And 0 is the number of amplification, so 0 amplifies whatever number it's associated with. Here on the island of Maui. Let a few more of you guys get on, and then start talking. I'm going to grab a couple stones. I got my amazonite, my citrine, black tourmaline. I've been like wearing more stones and being more mindful of my field being such an open channel, and my clairaudience is so amplified now, and I'm hearing so much, and sometimes I hear beings say things and that, you know, just don't feel good, so I'm protecting myself a little bit more, my aura, and I have been on social media too much. I've been taking some time to myself and integrating more energy through my body and getting more dialed in with my channel, and just taking some time and listening a lot more, so one of the things that I talk about a lot is the programming that we receive as children, and how so much of that affects us as we get older, and a lot of the time we don't know where it's coming from or why we have the actions that we have. And so there's so much of it that comes from when we're young due to the domestication of the adults that are around us that are raising us, and it's passed down generationally over and over and over and over again. And so yesterday I went to the beach and just took some time to ground out and be with myself, and one of the books I've had for a while by Miguel Ruiz is The Voice of Knowledge, and I've read some of his other books. He wrote The Four Agreements and The Mastery of Love, which I definitely recommend checking out. And so when I read chapter 3 at the beach yesterday, I was like, oh my gosh, this is like such a perfect indication of what it is I think about, or I ponder over, I'm told in my mind, and I realize about myself and other humanity in general. And what I find is that when we have the open doorway into the visual of what it is that has us programmed in these ways, it unlocks something, and it like opens up this new vortex of consciousness for us to step into, and it helps to move all of that programming out. And it was really, really amazing to read the chapter, and I loved the way it was written. And then after I read the book, I had the vision to make a video about it, and I saw myself channeling afterwards. So, and I know that it's because this opens up the vortex of understanding, and then that activation takes place, and then we can clear some energy out afterwards. And I know that that's why I saw to do an activation afterwards. So I'm going to read the chapter to you now. It's not very long, so I'll get started. So again, this is the Voice of Knowledge by Miguel Ruiz, and if you feel the pull to share the video, please do, because it's really, really good wisdom. So I'll go ahead and get started. The name of the chapter is The Lie of Our Imperfection, and it's called Childhood Memories Recalled, and it's chapter 3 in the book. And he writes, I remember when I was a child, I was so free. I was wonderful to be a child. I remember that I learned to walk before I learned to talk. I was like a little sponge trying to learn everything. I also remember the way I used to be before I learned to speak. As a child, I was completely authentic and never pretended to be what I am not. My tendency was to play, to explore, to be happy. My emotions ruled everything. I only wanted to do what I liked to do, and I tried to avoid what I didn't like. All of my attention was focused on what I was feeling, and I could perceive the emotions coming out of other people. We can call it instinct if we want to, but it was a kind of perception. I wouldn't get too close to others because I felt uncomfortable. I had many emotions that I couldn't explain because I didn't have words, of course. I remember waking up, seeing my mother's face, and feeling overwhelmed with a desire to grab her. I didn't know that this emotion was called love. It was completely natural to love. I felt the same way about my toys, about the cat and the dog too. I remember seeing my father come back from work and running to him and jumping on him with so much joy, with a big, beautiful smile. Completely authentic. I could be naked and I didn't care what people thought. I used to be myself, whatever I was, because I didn't have knowledge. I didn't have a program in my head. I didn't know what I was, and I didn't care to know. Just as a dog doesn't know that it's a dog, but it acts like a dog, barks like a dog, well, I used to be like that. I lived my life through my integrity. This was my true nature before I learned to speak. I continued to explore my childhood memories, and I discovered that something happens to all of us. What happens? Well, knowledge happens. I can remember starting to learn words. I learned the names of every object I perceive. I learned a language, which is now great. Now I can use words to ask for what I want. Months later, and maybe years later, my mind is mature enough for abstract concepts. With these concepts, something incredible happens. I start to create stories by qualifying everything. What is right or wrong, what I should or shouldn't be, what is good or bad, beautiful or ugly. I learn from my parents not just what they say, but what they do. I learn what they say not just to me, but what they say about other people. I learn how to interact. I copy everything I see. I see my father very powerful with his strong opinions, and I want to be like him. I can hardly wait to grow up and have an opinion of my own. Well, when I finally understand that the language, almost everybody begins to tell me what I am. The way I learn about myself is by hearing the opinions of the storytellers around me. My mother creates an image of me based on what she believes I am. She tells me what I am, and I believe her. Then my father tells me what I am, and it's something completely different, but I agree with him too. Of course, each of my brothers and sisters has an opinion of me too, and I agree with them. Surely they know more than I do, even though I'm the one who lives in the physical body. None of this makes sense, but I'm having fun. Then I go to school, and the teacher tells me what I am, which is still okay until she tells me what I should be, but I am not. I agree that the problems begin in that moment. I hear the teacher say, "Children, you need to work hard to become somebody, to be successful in life. The world is divided into winners and losers, and you are here to prepare yourself to be a winner. If you work hard, perhaps you'll be a lawyer, a doctor, an engineer." My teacher tells me stories about all the past presidents and what they did when they were children. Of course, all the heroes are winners. I am a child. I am innocent. I learned the concept of winner. I agree that I should become a winner, and that's it. The agreement is stored in my memory. At home, I hear my parents say, "Miguel, you have to behave this way to be a good boy," which means if I don't behave that way, I'm not a good boy. They don't say this, but I understand this. You have to do this, and that to be a good boy. Then you will get a reward. And if you are not that way, you will be punished. Oops, I am too small. They are so big. I try to rebel and I fail. They win. I start pretending to be what I am not to avoid the punishment, but also to get the reward. I have to be what they tell me to be because the reward only goes to good boys. I remember trying so hard to become what they wanted me to be, just to have the reward of their attention, just to hear them say, "Miguel, you are such a good boy." What I don't notice behind all of these messages I hear are the silent messages that are never said, but that I can understand. I am not the way I should be. It is not okay to be me. If the message is, "Miguel, you have to work hard to become somebody," that means that I am nobody right now. It's that I will never be good enough because I am not perfect. And I agree, in that moment, like most of us, I start searching for perfection. That's how the image of perfection is introduced to my mind. When I start pretending to be what I am not. The first lie happens in my first year of school almost right away. Sitting in that classroom and seeing my first teacher impresses me deeply. The teacher is a grown-up. Whatever she says must be the truth, just as whatever my father or mother says must be truth. She is a great teacher who really cares about children, even though the message I receive is mostly positive. The consequence is a little different. Behind the message is something very subtle. I call it the lie of my imperfection. It's the main lie that I agreed to believe about myself, and from that lie, more lies are invented to support it. This is the moment of all, when I start to come out of heaven, when my faith in the lie begins to work its magic. Just like a miracle, it starts to take effect all around me. I have to work hard to be good enough for my mother, to be good enough for my father, to be good enough for my older brothers and sisters, to be good enough for my teachers. This is overwhelming, but it's not over yet. I turn on the television and they tell me the way I should dress, the way I should look, the way I should be, but I am not. Television gives me more images of heroes and villains, and I see people trying hard to be winners. I see them striving for perfection, wanting to be somebody important, wanting to be what they are not. The real drama begins when I'm a teenager, because now it's not only that I'm not good enough for other people, I am no longer good enough for myself. The result is self-rejection. I tried to prove my worth to myself by working hard to get A's in school. I tried to be best at sports, the best at playing chess, the best at everything. At first, I do this to try to impress my father and older brothers. Later, I do this to impress myself. At this point, I am no longer authentic. I have lost my integrity, my authenticity, because I no longer make decisions based on what is good for me. It is important to satisfy other people's point of view. When I change schools from elementary to the next level, I am told, "You are not a child anymore. You cannot act like a child. Now you have to behave this way." Over and over, I try to please other people by pretending to be what they want me to be. I start searching for opinions from everybody. How do I look? What do you think of me? Did I do a good job? I'm looking for support for someone to tell me, "Miguel, you are so good." If I'm with somebody who tells me how good I am, that person can manipulate my life so easily because I need that recognition. I need somebody to tell me that I'm intelligent, that I'm wonderful, that I'm a winner. I can't stand to be alone by myself. When I'm alone, I see myself as a loser and my self-judgment is strong because I am not that way, the way I should be according to my story. I judge myself and find myself guilty. Then I begin to use everything around me as an instrument for self-punishment. I had the tendency to compare myself with other people. Oh, they are better than me. I look at myself in the mirror and I don't like what I see. I reject myself. Of course I don't love myself, but I pretend that I love myself. With enough practice, I begin to believe what I preach. Later, when I really try to prove myself in society, I become a medical doctor. Does becoming a medical doctor finally make me a winner? No, no. There are cardiologists, neurologists, surgeons. Then I become a surgeon, but I'm still not good enough according to my story. I have an image of myself that I believe when I'm alone, and I project different images around other people depending on what I want them to believe about me. In trying to project my images, I have to defend these images. I have to become very intelligent just to cover up all the lies. I keep pretending to be all of those images, and for years and years of practice, I tell myself, it doesn't hurt. I don't care. I am lying. I am pretending. I could almost win an Academy Award for my performance. What a character. What a drama. And I could say that the drama of my life begins when I agree that I am not good enough. When I hear my teachers, my family, the television tell me, "Miguel, you have to be this way," but I am not. I am searching for appreciation, for acceptance, for love, not knowing that it's just a story. I am searching for perfection, and I find it very interesting of how not being perfect becomes the biggest excuse for people to use to justify their actions. Every time they make a mistake and need to defend their image, I hear them say, well, I'm only human, I'm not perfect, only God is perfect. This also becomes the biggest excuse for every mistake I make. Oh, well, nobody's perfect. What a great justification. I go to church. They show me pictures of saints. This is perfection. But in the faces of the saints, I see suffering and pain. To be perfect, do I need to be like them? Yes. I am here to suffer. And if I suffer with patience, maybe when I die, I can receive my reward in heaven. Maybe then I'll be perfect. I used to believe that because I heard it so often, but it's just a story. I had so many superstitions in my head about myself, about everything. Lies that come from thousands of years old still affect the way we create our own story. What I was told as a child is only God is perfect. All of God's creation is perfect except humans. At the same time, I was told that God put humans at the very top of creation. But how can humans be at the top of creation when everything is perfect except humans? It didn't make sense to me. After I grew up, I thought about the contradiction. This is not possible. If God is perfect, well, God is the one who creates everything. If I really believe in the perfection of God's creation, then I think that all of us are perfect, or God is not perfect either. I love and respect all of God's creation. How can I say, God, you created billions of people and they are not perfect? For me to say that I'm not perfect or that you are not perfect is the greatest insult to God from my point of view. If we don't see the perfection, it's because our attention is focused on the lie, on that image of perfection that we can never be. How many of us give up trying to be the image of perfection, but in giving up, we don't go as warriors? Just accept that we are failures, that we will never make it, and we blame everything outside of us. It didn't make it because nobody helped me, because of this or that or whatever. There are hundreds of excuses, but now the self-judgment is even worse than before. When we are still trying to be perfect, the judgment is there, but it's not as bad as when we give up. Then we try to cover up our frustration and say, I'm okay, this is the kind of life I want, but we know that we have failed and we can't hide what we believe from ourselves. Of course, anytime we try to be what we are not, we fail. It's so difficult to be what we are not, to pretend to be what we are not. I used to pretend that I was happy and very strong and very important. Wow. Living that way is truly a deep hell. It's a setup. It's a no-win situation. You can never be what you are not, and that is the main point. You can only be you, and that's it. And you are right now, and it's effortless. There is no need to justify what we are. There is no need to work hard and become what we are not. We just need to remain in our integrity to the way we were before we learned to speak. Perfect. As a little child, we are authentic. When we are hungry, we only want to eat. When we are tired, we just want to sleep. Only the present time is real for us. We don't care about the past. We aren't worried about the future. We enjoy life. We want to explore and have fun. Nobody teaches us to be that way. We are born that way. We are born in truth, but we grow up believing in lies. This is the whole drama of humanity, the whole problem with storytellers. One of the biggest lies in the story of humanity is the lie of our imperfection. That lie had a big effect in my own life. And though I tell others not to have assumptions, I have to assume that in one way or another, this happens to all of us. Of course, there are differences in the story, but I think the pattern is more or less the same for everyone. Hardly anyone can escape from the setup. I was a perfect little child. I was innocent, and I ate the lie that I am not what I should be. I believed that I would have to work hard to become what I should be. This is how I learned to create my story, because I had faith in the story. The story became truth for me. And the story, even if it is full of lies, is perfect. It's wonderful and beautiful. The story is not right, wrong, good, or bad. It's just a story. That's all. But with awareness, we can change the story. Step by step, we can return to the truth. And so I read that and I was like, yep, that's it. It's the same thing that like I realized about myself and all of humanity is that we're in this domestication to where there's this punishment and reward system, and parents try to tell their children how they should be and what they should and how they shouldn't be, versus letting the children, letting us show the parents who we are and let the parents see who we are and nurture that aspects of ourselves. Yes, with guidance, showing children what's hot and what's, you don't step out in traffic, and like the tools to be a human. Yet at the same time, this whole domestication thing comes about with the punishment and reward. If you do good, then you're a good boy. But if you do bad, you're a bad boy. And that's distortion. That is distortion because it comes from the programming of wanting to warp another human to be something that they're not. And so that is where it comes from. That is where our abandonment issues come from. That's where our insecurities come from. That's where the codependencies come from. That's when we're like searching outside for us to find love in other people and the outside world, when really it's within us to let the inner child come back out, to let their inner child self-realize and play and discover who we are and what that is, and to know that that changes constantly. Like who I am was totally different 5 days ago, So it's like this level up thing that takes place. And that's all it takes. All it takes is the recognition of that. And we can start to open up and change the format of the matrix of the mind that has been embedded in our DNA. And then we can start to create the realities that feel good for ourselves. We don't have to live our lives based on the acceptance of others. We like to be appreciated. We like to be loved, and that's okay. It's part of our human, makeup of what we're here to do, is to self-realize. And the greatest gift of all, the best thing I've come to realize is that when I started finding my own acceptance of myself, when I started to find my own self-love for myself without needing to get it from somewhere else, from someone else, from something else, I became empowered. I became sovereign, more self-reliant. I'm not blaming the outside world. He or she treated me wrong, so now I can't trust. Like if someone cheated on you and now you can't trust someone, you're still letting that person have that power over you. If your parents abused you and now you're abusing your children, you're letting your parents have that power over you. And it's okay. It's not a bad thing. There is no wrong. There is no right. It just is a story. So when we can recognize the story, we can go, oh, okay, now I see. Now I'm self-realizing more. And then we can communicate passionately to children. We can communicate passionately to our parents. We can communicate passionately to our coworkers and the people in our community and our spouses, our partners. Because it's like when we realize that the programming goes that deep, generationally passed down since probably the beginning of man, that's why there's this mass awakening happening now, because we're coming into the self-realization of the programming that's been here inside and outside. And things are getting rewritten. That's why we're having these conversations now. And so it's like, it doesn't have to be this heavy thing. We don't have to walk around and have this shame and guilt for the things that we've done to ourselves. We don't have to have shame and guilt for the things that we've done to other people. And we don't have to have shame and guilt around the things that other people have done to us either. Because they have a story too. They're running on a program that they don't know either. Even when we feel like we're in self-realization, we still can do things that are just like, what was that? That programming can come up because something triggers the DNA. There's still something that's stuck in an organ somewhere that gets activated through energy. And then there's a flare of consciousness that comes about that doesn't feel good. The power of a human is the self-realization of choice. To be able to recognize a moment that passes by, to go, oh, That didn't feel good. That's the old programming. And to communicate with those around you, around us. I'm sorry. This is what I'm going through. I'm self-realizing. Like, communication is the key. Parents with children, that's the biggest thing. Your children are smart. They know probably more than you do, because they don't have that distortion. It's pure, it's innocent, the knowledge we are born with. And so talking to children, letting them know what's going on. If you're having a bad day, let them know that you're having a bad day instead of barking at them and making them feel less than because you're not in control of your emotions. Children also learn to feed off of that as well. Children have their own energy. They have their own set of emotions. So if they're lashing out and they're acting out, it's up to the parent to self-realize through their image to talk to them about their emotions and their actions and what they're going to, not to shame them for what they're doing, not being a bad girl, not being a bad boy. It's not right. It's not wrong. It's perfect. And so to be able to realize all of that, to be able to understand, to understand, is the greatest gift that we can give ourselves and all of the collective. Because what we do, what we think, what we say is connected to the web that we are in. And it penetrates the cells of everyone in that web. And so it's like, let's teach the children. Let's learn for ourselves so that we can elevate the consciousness and have a better experience as a human. It affects the molecular structure as well. The body is the living, breathing organism that gives us consciousness. And it is paying attention to the way that we're feeding ourselves. The whole saying food for thought, well, thoughts are food. The thoughts are food for the cells, not just what we eat, not just what we drink, but how we speak, how we move, how we groove. Our cells are paying attention to that. It amplifies the DNA, like literally the brain. The brain is affected by happiness because it produces serotonin and oxytocin and dopamine, all of the neurotransmitters. And so if someone is depressed and sad most of their life, disease starts to take place on the molecular structure. Parkinson's and like Alzheimer's and these things can come in because the brain is not functioning to the proper vibration it can be at. And so when we get outside of the heavy emotion of the story of the past and get more dialed in with the body, we become next level. Because now the consciousness is more aware. The body's like, ooh, there's an amplification. There's an awakening that takes place. The nervous system in our body is being amplified right now due to the cosmic energy that's coming in. We're being activated. We're all channeling and learning about psychic abilities and listening to multidimensional beings. Like, it's happening all over the world. So the nervous system is such a huge role, which is at the base of the sacrum, goes up through the spine, up to the occipits, to the brain. That's called Kundalini. And so when we recognize that the consciousness of our thoughts and the consciousness of our body are fed on each other, because there is no separation, humanity has forgotten the love of the body, the love of the self. We overeat, we drink alcohol, we do all of these things that puts all of this acid, all this acidity into the body. And yes, the body can like work it and try to turn it alkaline so that it can digest it and consume it the way that the divine design is supposed to be meant to be. But that causes distortion. Thoughts do the same thing. High vibe thoughts, high vibe body, high vibe life. I mean, it makes sense, you know? And so it's like, that is my passion. That is my drive, to be as peaceful as I can. And I know that it starts with myself, not what the outside world can give me. The outside world is a reflection. It's a tool for us to create and grow abundance and work together and grow food and all of this. Like, it is like the breeding ground of our community. And we are hosted in this body as consciousness incarnated in. And so the body is also the earth, because without the earth, we would not be in the body and we would not have consciousness. It's all connected. Nothing is separate. It's all one. O Rekishina Haina Maya. O Rekishina Hiya Kamaya. The heart and soul of the universe is being amplified at this time. The photon belt is amplifying the amount of solar winds that we are receiving. O Rekishina Hamaya. There is a light at the tunnel for those of us that speak truth. O Rekishina Hamaya. The lies that we tell ourselves and others will only last for so long. We can only live so long as fake entities incarnated into the vessel because it's on vibration. Of course, I'm like tapping on the throat chakra, right? Because this is our authenticity. We receive into the solar plexus, into that gut feeling. The gut is like the first brain. A lot of people call the digestive system, the gut, the first brain, because 90 to 95% of the serotonin that is produced in our body is in the gut, not the brain, like a lot of people think. So what we're feeding, what we're eating, what we're drinking is going into that brain. And so when we have a healthy host of bacteria in the abdomen, well, that's going to produce a healthier outcome of neurotransmitters. So we receive into the gut, we receive energy in through the solar plexus, we receive through the food, we receive through the thoughts. And the throat chakra is how we translate the energy that we're receiving and we're putting out. It's this cycle. It's so simple, yet so powerful. That's the beauty of letting go, of being frustrated and angry. Like, why are we frustrated and angry? At life, at people? Like, I don't even know. It's a story. That's what it is. It's situations that have come through, that have happened to us, that have stored into the memory, that are causing actions and feelings and words to take place, that's creating this environment of a story. And it's infecting all of those that are around us. We tell the story to our boss. We tell the story to our cousin. We tell the story to our daughter. We tell the story to our mother. And now that story's penetrated into their aura. So it's like, what kind of stories are we telling each other? You can get out of the light. I am the light. Ah. It's like, it's like laughter. It makes life lighter. So we can have a pleasant experience, because it seems like that this planet is just, it's an interesting place to be, you know? It's an experiment of the cosmos, and it's like, it's the host of the parasitic plague of consciousness that has like fed and fed and fed and fed and fed off of people for so long, and now that paradigm is shifting. That's why so many people are awakening around the planet. There's like thousands of you and I connected to each other talking about the same stuff over and over again. The stories are heavy, and I understand that situation cannot feel good. Just like with rape. If someone raped you in your past, sexually touched you inappropriately, and now you can't trust people, you're not loving your own body in an intimate way, and you're not enjoying sex with another person, well, that's a story that's like running your life. And I already know. I've dealt with those things in my life, so I recognize what that feels like. And at the end of the day, it's still a story that's stored, makes chemical reactions in the body to trigger anxiety. Anxiety is another thing. Like, so many people are attached to anxiety to the point that they go to doctors and get drugs so that they can feel normal, instead of like talking about what that is. And what that is it's a chemical response in the solar plexus that creates this feeling of anxiety when the human feels out of control in their own emotions. I mean, think about that for a minute. The empowerment of the story is heavy and light at the same time. So when we recognize that the body is responding to the mind, which is all responding to the story, then we can go, oh, let me get out the pen and paper so I can start writing my own script, right? That's the beauty of choice as a human. We get to choose how long we're going to tell these stories, how long we're going to surrender ourselves to the outside world of what we should be, rather than what we really want to be. Working so hard to be something that we're not based on what someone else said when we couldn't even speak. Good boy, good girl, bad girl. The parental roles of this conditioning, of the dysfunction of the programming, is how we move past the storyline so that we can create what we want, so that we can be happy and not feel anxiety and not have to take drugs and all this medication and all of these things, because that lets go of our sovereignty. And sovereignty, in my opinion, is emotional choice. The choice to be emotionally intelligent. That creates sovereignty, because then you get to choose what you want to take personally and what you don't. And then when something is taken personally, we get to choose how to change the story to the aftermath, because it does come in. I still take things personally sometimes, but I move out of it fast. I grab it and pull it out because I can't stand the way it feels in my body. Just like anger and frustration. I don't like the way it feels in my body. So I move out of that really quickly, even though I still feel it sometimes. It's a matter of choice. Choosing to hate other people based on what they have going on in their own story. Okay, well, if you hate somebody, why are you still around them? Choices. How we're engaging in the story of ourselves and how we're engaging in the story of the people that we allow into our vortex is huge. Health creates health. Dis-ease creates dis-ease. And yes, through disease, we can get through the path of light and happiness or whatever, but it doesn't have to be revolving all the time. It can be much more simple. It can be much more loving and compassionate as we move through these programs from childhood. We move through the stories of what our boss wants us to be, or what our teachers want us to be, or what our parents want us to be. It's like, whoa, let me look at what I want to be. What do I want to do with my life? And the thing about awakening is that it's raw and it's real, it's authentic and it's brutal. And there are people in our lives that are there that are not at that vibration. When we get activated, the nervous system is now amplifying the cells, and those people will vibrationally on a molecular level leave our vortex. And we think it's this heavy emotional thing, but it's not. It's on an electron level. Literally, the vibratory of two humans being in the vortex together, one person will pull energy from the other one so that the electrons can level out in the gravity field that we're in, standing up in on Earth. It's okay to tell people that you're awakening. It's okay to tell people that you're learning to self-realize and be emotionally intelligent. And they can choose whether they want to engage in that or not. And you can choose whether or not you want them around anymore. It's that simple. It doesn't have to be so heavy. We're not going to lose everything if one person leaves our life. That's codependent. That's where this chapter that I just read comes from. We get married, we have children, and then all of a sudden it's like, if he leaves me, what am I going to do? And yes, I understand that there's a different change in the program, but when there's emotional intelligence on two people, they have their own sovereignty and they know that it's going to be okay. The world isn't going to end because one person isn't around anymore. There's 8 billion of us on the planet. Vibration meets vibration. We start to attract what we are, no matter what we are in the moment. It's really interesting. It's one of the things I do is I go, who's showing up in my life right now? What kind of vibration am I vibrating at? What's happening with me? Not, oh, the world is doing this to me. Yeah, okay, well, the world is doing its thing, but you are the world. I am the world. So there's like this different mentality that takes place. Self-reliance and integrity goes a long way. It's like How truthful are we to our word? And knowing that that shifts constantly. We may tell someone something one day and the next day have a totally different feeling about it. And it's okay to go, it's okay, I don't feel that way anymore. And they may not understand it, but you don't have to justify yourself, because we change, we evolve, we move on, we let go, we create new beginnings, we create new endings. It's like a constant swirl of energy that we're in constantly. And so when people can get together and realize this and can open with communication past the egoic need to compete, we come together more in a unified field to actually create a more sovereign world on the outside, because we're not competing. Who has the best carrots, or who has the best car or the best house? It's like, what you trying to prove, boo-boo? Like, what's your house going to do for you? You know? It's like that kind of mentality. And it's not anyone's fault. It's the programming that we've been indoctrinated in since we were children, our parents' children, themselves, their parents, their grandparents. Do good, be a good boy, don't be a bad boy, based on what they think. It's really interesting. It's like, oh yeah, oh, I recognize that now. Let me just clear all of that out. And it removes shame and guilt. It removes holding on to the consciousness of other people in our own auric field, which relieves our cells. Our molecular structure can go, ah, finally, sovereignty, emotional intelligence is taking place. It's power. Because then anyone that steps in front of you can't penetrate that. And if they do, you can move it out really quickly. That's what's so beautiful. You know, like that's what's so great. Like for me, I'm single, I haven't dated anyone in a while. And for me, it's like, I recognize that my level of emotional intelligence is how I find peace. And so when I connect with someone I want to be intimate with, or a potential intimate partner, I want to get to know them now so I can see what their emotional intelligence is. So I've been hanging out with someone. I'm getting to know them. They're getting to know me. It's like not so much about me getting to know someone else. It's like, yo, let me let you learn me, Because it's like, if we don't have a similarity of emotional intelligence, that person's going to pull from you so that they can feel better about themselves, and so that the electrons can have more balance in the field of gravity, right? And so it's like, well, if we date someone that doesn't have the same emotional intelligence as we do for ourselves, we have to ask ourselves why. Is it coming from a place of abandonment? Is it coming from a place of codependency? The need and the yearning to be appreciated and loved? We all have it. We all want it. I mean, I love myself and I have high emotional intelligence, but I want to share my life with somebody. But it's like, at what cost? Because energy, we pay in energy. We pay. So it's like, okay, finding somebody that's yummy and intelligent and mindful of themselves and compassionate to other people and doesn't need to compete and things like that. They just are. They're happy. That is what we're getting back to. And that is the recognition of the programming that we have, that we're walking around with, that we're just telling these stories of, I'm so depressed and I'm so angry and I'm so sad and I don't have anything. Like that's all comes from a lack survival mode, not being empowered in our own emotional intelligence. That's all it comes from, because it's all a story. And I've been through all the stories. I already know. So it's like, I learned that I must self-realize so that I can create. Now that doesn't mean that I still don't feel sad sometimes, or I get a little woe is me, I need to like lick my paw so I can feel better or whatever. But I recognize it's only temporary. It's a temporary story that comes through to trigger something that's probably got something to do from when I was a child that I don't remember. I don't remember much of my childhood from when I'm like 10 years old and younger. So there's a lot of programming in there that I've had to move through, and not knowing what that programming is, other than, well, this is how I'm feeling in the moment, so I should probably work on whatever this is, instead of needing to know why and how and when and what. Humans want information, where it's like, yo, stop asking so many questions and just be. Just allow. And it's going to move out. It all does. The temporary thing that we're in right now shifts. Not happy in your situation, not happy in your job, don't like the house you live in. Okay, self-realize. Start writing down what you want. Start creating a different energy versus telling the same story of lack and depression and all of those things. It's possible to find happiness even in the lowest moments because that's our innate nature. Love is our innate nature. It's just these stories that keep us away from it. But then we get little blips of it when we see something sweet or, an animal or a child play. We recognize the love that we have within ourselves because everything is a mirror. The constellations are aligning now. Orion is speaking the holy truth. Creating a container of honesty, of love, of forgiveness, all the stories that revolve around to let go of whatever's going on instead of just realizing that it's all a story. Words to create feeling, to create a chemical response in the body that triggers the mind, which triggers the action, which triggers realities. Orion speaks truth. It is the limelight of our existence. Children just want to play. They want to feel good. They want to be happy. They want to be loved. And we are no different because we are still the children that we were when we were small. It's just we got taller. We have more words to speak with. We can drive a car. We're doing adulting things, but we're still children. We are no different from the child that we were when we were smaller, except for the fact that we were pure and innocent. We try so hard to be what we're not. If we're not feeling something, we're not feeling something. But a lot of the time we'll push ourselves to do things based on what someone else is doing. And that causes distortion in our ley lines of consciousness. It does. It also can push us to be where we really want to be. So it's a matter of the story that we put around it. I am learning and have learned greatly these last few years not to chase after anything, not to push myself to do anything because I know it's temporary. Even if it makes me uncomfortable, even if I feel this drive in me to do something, but my actions aren't showing it, that's not because I'm lazy. It's because it's not the time to do it. We as humans are like drive, go, build, do, and we don't rest. We don't take the time to chill and relax and watch, to see and listen and gaze at everything around us. That's where the wizardry is. That's where the wisdom comes from. Instead of going, blinders on the phone, in the car, not paying attention, drinking, out partying, eat, sleep. Where it's like, whoa, where's the fun time? Where's the period of letting the inner child out to play and do what it wants? Instead of having to go and provide and to be this thing, the mother, the father, the provider, all of these things. It's all a construct of creating storylines of consciousness. And so it doesn't mean we have to stop doing those things because it's fun to create as humans. It's fun to go sometimes and to do and to be. But it's a matter in which we look at ourselves and the choice we make around our emotional intelligence with all of that. right? It's like swimming in a sea of vibration. And then sometimes we bump into each other in the sea with our goggles on, and it's like, oh, hey, hey. And so it's like we can see each other as a reflection. We don't even have to speak to each other. So it's like, what kind of reflection is that? How are we thinking and looking about other people? Are we judging other people? Are we like talking shit about other people? Are we hating on other people? Are we hating ourselves because we're not thin enough? You know, we're too thin, we're too fat, we don't have this car, we don't have this, you know, these clothing or this handbag or this hair or these eyes or whatever that is. That causes so much distortion in the ley lines. And when we can teach children to self-love, no matter what someone else at school may be telling them, no matter what adults tell us that we should be at school or at church or wherever that is, it's like, why do we take all that on? And if someone comes at us with this kind of disdain attitude, why do we have to give it back? Because we just went into their vortex, sucked us right into whatever is going on in their body. And usually it's parasitic. It's way past emotion. It's the story of the parasite in the body, affecting the organs, creating this distortion in the brain so that the emotional intelligence has been forgotten. We don't look in the mirror. Do you look in the mirror? Do you look in the mirror and look in your eyes? Are you happy with what you see? Do you not like what you see? Why do you not like what you see? Who told you that story? That's what it's about. Start looking in the mirror. Start loving what you see, or change it. Do what you want to do, right? That's the sovereignty. Sound tune the frequency. It's like all of a sudden I start channeling, and then it's time to sound tune to like amplify the signal and clear out. This is a good video. I'm going to have to go back and watch it for myself. I love feeling the pull to engage. That's when I make videos, because I know it's going to be something good. I'm speaking through the channel. It's coming out of me and my own emotional intelligence and my multidimensional space. So like when I go back and watch it, I get the food for thought too. Self-reflection is the greatest thing. You want to level up in yourself? Start making videos. You don't even have to share it online. Just start talking to yourself on video and then watch it back. You'll discover a lot about yourself. I know I have. It's amazing. Looking at ourselves without criticism, but optimism. Looking at ourselves with love and not hate, not judgment. Because why would we hate ourselves? Why would we judge ourselves? That doesn't make any sense. It's the definition of insanity, if you think about it. It's like pure insanity not to love ourselves, because it's a story based off of something else. Ooh, just changed the timeline. And please share the video if you feel the pull. Tag your friends in it. Anybody that you feel like needs to hear this, like, share it out. I'm going to download the video from Facebook and put it on YouTube, and I'll share the link, because it's like, that's why I share my mind, because it's like I share what I go through. I share what I recognize, knowing that all of that can change in an instant. But it's like, man, let's like empower each other to self-realize so we can move past these stories. I love how the rainbow light's shining now. Shine the light, right? Right on the throat chakra, right on the mouth. Authenticity. That's the way we speak our truth. That's the way we love ourselves. It's all connected. I love you to the moon, family. Thank you for taking the time to engage with me. And I love you guys so much. You light my life up every day, and you have for years now that I've been active in this social media platform. And You've inspired the love I have for myself and the love that I am so easily sharing with others. Couldn't do it without you. That's why we're all connected. I love you. Aloha. Aloha aina. Love the earth because it's you loving yourself.